What's up, everybody? Eric here with another EUE Reviews. Today we're reviewing Star Trek Picard Season 3, Episode 6. Before we get into that, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, let me know what you guys thought about this episode. I might go extreme with what I thought about this episode, guys, so if you guys don't agree with me, please let me know if you think I'm being a little bit too overhyped about this episode. Alright, so let's get into this episode, and like usual, start of the episode will be spoiler-free. Then we'll go into the spoiler section. Guys, this is actually an episode where I'd say watch a spoiler section once you watch the episode. This one was amazing. Alright, so the title of this episode is The Bounty. I didn't know what that meant at first, but we're going to find out about that not too long. Alright, so this episode was released on March 23rd, 2023. The cast is Patrick Stewart, Jerry Ryan, Jonathan Frakes, Ed Spielers, Todd Stashwick, Gates McFadden, Michael Dorn, Michelle Hurd, Amanda Plummer, and LeVar Burton. There's one more person that's in it, but I don't want to say it just yet because that would be a huge spoiler. So please go into the spoiler section when I finally announce that character. Alright, so the runtime of this episode is 52 minutes. Basic plot is, in the last episode, we finally learned that there's a way for them to get into Daystrom Station. However, we don't know what's going to be fully involved with it, because it's not going to be a simple you go in, you get out. There's probably going to be very big safety measures. And remember, we have the entire team all together now, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, the idea of this episode is now we got to go in and heist and find out what was stolen from Daystrom before, because we know that they took that weapon, that portal weapon, but we need to find out what was their main objective of that day. And we do find out in this episode what it is that they took. Alright, let's now move on to my spoiler-free thoughts on this episode. Woo! Guys, this one is... Actually, I'm going to change things up. I'm going to say my score... No, actually, no, I got to say the spoiler-free thoughts. Alright, spoiler-free thoughts. This episode is amazing. Just the thought about it. That's not my score. I'm just like, holy crap. The entire time I'm watching this episode, I'm just like, this is one of the best episodes of Star Trek I've ever seen. And I don't just mean Picard, I mean Star Trek. It was so good. This episode felt like a love letter to Star Trek. It had so many Easter eggs, references to things in the past, things that just, it meant so much. And even while you're watching, you're just like, wow, I can't believe they're really doing all of this in this episode. They're having these character moments where it's like, this feels very like people talking to each other. I don't know how to describe it other than this is one of the best episodes of Star Trek I've ever seen. And just though what happens in it, we actually do find out what's going on with certain characters. We see some arrivals. Like I said, LeVar Burton's in it. Actually, there's another character I forgot to mention that also shows up in this one. But yeah, we see everyone together. We get the band back together. And I love this episode, guys. Without going into too many spoilers, because we're going to go into the spoiler section a little bit. But yeah, I don't know if I can say that there's any negative into this episode. They feel like they knew where they were going and they finally got to it. There is one negative I'll talk about, but it's weird how, and I've noticed this in the last episode too, Shaw's the captain, but they don't treat Shaw like the captain at times. It feels like he's an afterthought. But maybe that could be that he's like, you know what, Picard, you have more experience with not being all crazy professional than me, so he lets Picard do whatever he wants. Alright, so let's move on to my score, guys. And this is crazy for me to even give this, but I'm giving this episode a 10 out of 10. This is a masterpiece. It just has so much in it that I'm just like, this is the Star Trek I've been waiting for so long. And I've been raving about season 3 so far. This one takes it to the next level. And I don't mean necessarily action, but it does everything that I've been wanting. And it gave me like heart-to-heart moments where I'm like, this is awesome. I usually have, like when I have like my little pictures that I put on in the spoiler section, I have the most I've ever put in one just because there's so much in this episode and I have to talk about so much of it. But yeah, I recommend this episode, guys. Season 3 of Star Trek. It's one of the best seasons of Star Trek I've ever watched. Please give it a watch. But yeah, well, let's move on to the spoiler section. But if you're not joining us for that, and you're just ending here today with us, guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel. And once you watch the episode, come back and watch my thoughts on the spoiler section and put in the comments what you thought about this episode. Like I said, I don't know if I'm just being really like up on this one because there's so many good things in it. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought. So here's your warning for the spoiler section. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, guys? Now back into the spoiler section of the episode, and holy so let's just get into it, because I don't want this episode to get too long. So at the beginning of the episode, we see that the Titan is leaving around some transponders, like some fake ones, so they think that that's where the Titan's at. So we see 3 ships looking for one at the beginning, 3 Federation ships, more than likely commandeered by changelings that are imposing as Starfleet officers. Then we see in another one that the Shriek found another one of these fake ones. But we're going to find out later that no matter how many of these they throw out, they will eventually find the Titan, because there's something about it. And then we get to Vadic after she sees that transponder. She gives like this crazy speech of like, oh, we got to make sure we fear our brothers and shit like that. However, she ends up killing a changeling that didn't agree with her. And I'm just like, okay, so your speech is kind of crap because you don't fully believe it. But all right, whatever. So let's now move on to the Titan, and we start off with Beverly and Picard talking about Jack's condition, and Jack has the same condition that Picard had in the first season, which led to his death. If you guys don't remember, Picard's not actually in his original human body. He's inside a golem that Dr. Sung made, so he's not technically the original Picard. The memories are all there, but that's not his original body. I'm not even sure that... It's weird. Is his soul there? I don't know how you'd consider that. But Picard's memories were moved onto a golem, and Picard's lived on through that. But that same condition that killed him is what Jack has. So then we go to Jack that's on the holodeck, and he's getting drunk. And he's just having a tough time. And he says some stuff to Picard that kind of aren't fair. He's like, oh, I didn't know you, but I was already cursed before I was born. And I felt bad for Jack, because Picard just blaming himself like, he gave the worst thing he could have given to his son. So that's already like, damn, I can't imagine how Picard's feeling about having that happen. And Jack's trying to be good about it, but it's hard. Then we go to Raffi and Worf as they transport into the Titan, and there's this cool moment of friends seeing each other. I really enjoyed seeing it. Now they're all going to try and make a plan of what to do. So let's go now to like the ready room, or wherever that's called. I can't remember the ready room, but just like a place where they can plan. And it's weird. So we see Worf and Raffi giving the plan of what to do. They got that device from Kryn of how they're going to be able to get into the Daystrom Station. I'm calling it Station because I'm pretty sure this one's considered Daystrom Station, while Daystrom Institute is the one that's on Earth. All right, so they're trying to break into Daystrom Station. They know there's a very strong AI, and they don't know how they're going to be able to stop it. But I mean, they know how to be able to disable it for a little bit. But that's just to disable the AI from catching them. They're still going to have guards that show up like every hour. They're going to deal with that. All right, so when they're about to go onto the ship, there's a funny scene where it looks like Seven's going to go with them. And Worf's trying to say, I've gone into battle with this, because like her and Raffi are broken up. And you can kind of tell that Worf, once Seven says, oh, I'm not going, Worf's like, oh, thank God you're not going. I was lying when I was saying that you should come. Going with former lovers going together, it's going to end badly. And I was just like, God damn, Worf, that was hilarious. But before, like, back to the planning stage, there was this weird thing in the planning where everyone's in the room and you see Shaw and he's in the back. Now, this is the one part of the episode where I'm like, wait, that's weird. Why is Shaw in the back? This is his ship. I know this is all like the Picard crew, but it's Shaw's ship. So I'm kind of confused on why he's in the back there, but maybe it's because now they're on the run. They're no longer really a Starfleet vessel at the moment. So Shaw's kind of like letting Picard lead. That could be what's going on. So let's actually now go to them actually going to Daystrom Station. We actually see the station. It looks really cool. And right before Riker, Raffi, and Worf like beam on board, Worf's kind of like trying to say that he's a pacifist and stuff like that. And Riker says, we're all gonna die. And it was just a great scene seeing him say that, because he's like, oh, damn, I need Worf to be a badass. He decides that, oh no, I'm gonna be a pacifist. So that actually made me laugh a lot. And they end up hacking into the system, so they're able to walk around and things like that. So that was really cool to see them. But as they do that, 2 starships show up, and the Titan needs to run away for a little bit because they can't wait for them. Now let's go back to the Daystrom Station, and we see them going around. We have so many Easter eggs, guys. I can't name them all, but we see the Genesis device. We see a attack tribble, and a crazy one, but we don't actually see it, but we just see in the manifest what it is. It's Kirk's body. It's actually here. And it's actually a little bit of foreshadowing that I didn't think about at the moment I was watching, but we'll get back to that at the end of the episode. So now that we go there, eventually Professor Moriarty from the Next Generation shows up. The holodeck program shows up, and he's trying to go after Riker and them, and it's just like, oh my crap, blast from the past. All right, so let's now go back to the Titan, and they end up getting to the Fleet Museum. And guys, this just seeing the Fleet Museum, it's a bunch of like historic starships, ones that are from the shows and stuff like that. So like, there's great moments here of what we see. And now they get hailed from Commandant LaForge, and that's Geordi, and he's talking to them, and he does not seem happy with what they're doing there, because he knows they're going to get him in trouble. All right, and now let's actually flip to LaForge and all them showing up. We actually see that Sydney and Jack are starting to become friends, and it's like, oh, is this how we're going to see them become family or something? Picard and Geordi become family? We don't know. But then we see Geordi having objections to stuff. He tells them about things he didn't like. He actually does mention when you first see Geordi that, actually I missed saying this before, he did not like the idea of putting all the ships together for, the celebration of what they're doing. I can't remember the name of it at the moment. Sorry, guys. But Geordi was against having all the starships together because he feels like that's a bad idea. And Geordi then tells Picard, in the scene that we're in now, that the reason that they're always going to be able to find the Titan, you can't just throw these transponders. The way that the ships work now is that they actually communicate with each other, the ships themselves. Very similar to Battlestar Galactica. So there's no way for them to fully outrun all these ships the way that they want. All right, let's go back to the Daystrom Station. And we actually start seeing, like, you're hearing these melodies in the back. And while Moriarty's shooting at them, and Riker's starting to understand him, he's like, something's going on. And he recognizes the tune. And it's, he eventually sings the tune, like a tune like it's expecting. And it's basically Pop Goes the Weasel. And then when Moriarty goes away, he says, marvelous. And right there, it's just like, no, anyone that watches has watched Next Generation, you have a feeling you know what's going to happen. But let's actually, then they actually go inside, and Riker actually tells them who's the person that's actually like making that sound, and it turns out that it's Data. And we actually see Data in a new Golem body, and we actually see an old picture of Data from like when we saw the young Riker. Oh, I forgot to mention, we see young Riker from back in an old episode of Next Generation, and then we see young Data. And to me, it's just like, this is a love letter to Star Trek The Next Generation. I love it. But then they go even crazy with it. So now we know that Data's the one that's, well, we don't know fully about it, but we know Data's there. So then we get to Seven and Jack. Right now, we're still having Geordi talking to Picard, but we see Jack about to sit down in the captain's chair, Seven still in her commander's chair, and right before it's just like, get off to Jack, because like, he's not the captain, he shouldn't be sitting in that seat. He's like, I'm just seeing how it feels, calm down. And then we see all these starships, and let me just go through some of the ones we actually see. So at first we see the Defiant, and we actually get the Deep Space Nine sound in the background right here. It was a really cool scene. So we see the Defiant, and you can actually tell Jack really likes the starships. We see the New Jersey from the old TOS, and then we see the NC-1701A from last seen on Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. And I was just like, oh my god, this is the last time. We know that ship got decommissioned, so we know it's still around. And you hear the Kirk music in there. Oh, actually, no, this is the Undiscovered Country music, if I'm not mistaken. Might be the the TOS music. I don't think so. And Jack even says, oh, he loves the Constitution class. And then we see Seven's favorite ship. We see the Voyager. And I'm just like, Voyager's my favorite show. And you hear the music, and I'm just like, that's awesome. And then you hear Jack and Seven, like, they're having a moment. And it's really cool. We actually have a moment right there where Jack says something like about like her talking about her like finding her family. And Jack has this moment of like, we all live in this galaxy, and we're so different because we're surrounded with different stars. I can't say the exact quote, but it was just so beautiful of what he said. And then right away, Seven's like, oh my God, you are Picard's son. You're just like him. And you can kind of tell Jack's going like, maybe I didn't just get that bad thing from my dad. Maybe I got something else from him too. But that was like a really cool scene to have. So now they move on to another ship, which is a ship I never expected to see. We see the bird of prey from Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. And they even mentioned the whales. And I was just like, oh my God, it's that ship. And while they were having this conversation, Seven mentions that it took them forever to find the ship. And Jack's like, because the cloaking turned on. And Jack has a thought in his head. That thing has a cloak. All right, so now let's go back to Daystrom Station. And we see Picard, not Picard. We see Riker and them seeing everything about Data. And it's like, this isn't a normal Data the android. This is something different. And it has memories from Data, Lore, B4, and Data's daughter. And what they end up doing is they need to take this out. They realize this is the manifest. Actually, no, that's later. But this is the... sorry about that. I'm skipping ahead because there's so many things happening in these different scenes. All right, so now let's actually go to Geordi and Picard again. And he's even saying, like, I can't go to help you out. I have to think about my family. He's like, I got to think about Sydney. And he has this great thing where he's like, you wish that your best parts of you and your kids, but you can also see that Picard in his mind's like, well, I gave my son one of the worst things about me because of the disease that Jack has now. But then, yeah, Picard just says, Geordi just says, I can't help you. I need to protect my family. And now we see Picard's okay with that. He says, like, I get it. Sydney's going to go talk to her dad. And Sydney has this great line of like, you were the one that always told me about your adventures with Picard and all of them in the Enterprise. And then Geordi says, they are not your family. And Sydney even says, the way you raised me, you always said your crew was your family. And you can kind of tell, like, Geordi's like, she learned it from me. And it's like, we're getting to the point where we're going to get, Geordi's going to be like, damn it, I'm just going to help them out. All right, so now let's actually go back to Daystrom. And this is where I meant before with Data. It turns out the AI of the station is Data. He's the one that's seen everything. And this actually makes them realize Data knows what was stolen. All right, so let's actually go back to something I missed too is when Sydney and she had her conversation with Geordi, she decided that she's going to stay on the Titan. And Jack is kind of talking to both sisters and being like, because Sydney's sister's also on board. Hey, can you guys help me out with this? And you can kind of tell Jack wants to steal the cloaking device from the bird of prey. All right, let's go now back to the Titan, like a little bit forward. And we see Shaw like geeking out. It's like, oh my God, that is Geordi LaForge. Remember, he's a former engineer, so LaForge's adventures are probably something he's like, oh my God, Geordi. And it's cool how they're geeking out. He wants to geek out with them. And Geordi even said, like, if we weren't in this crazy moment, I would also geek out with you as well. And then out of nowhere, before they're about to beam them off, the ship cloaks. So Jack has stolen it. And before, at first, Geordi's trying to blame Picard. And Picard's like, I didn't try and do anything. And then they both go like, Jack. And Picard says Jack, and then LaForge says Sydney. Their kids is stolen. They're like, God damn it. And then we have a scene where this is finally where Geordi agrees to help them out. He's like, I have to protect my daughter. She's not going to leave this place. The only way I can help her is to stay on board and do my part. And it's just like, cool, Geordi's in it with them. All right, so now the Titan's going back to, grab the team. However, in order for them to take off Data, security is going to be taken off, and Riker decides that he's going to basically try and shoot off some of the enemies that are trying to come get them. However, Riker's captured, but the other three are able to escape. So that was cool, but Riker is now stuck with them. Now, let's move on to a scene that's probably one of the, like, it tugs at your heartstrings. We have Jack and Picard now in the ready room. And Jack actually tells him, like, I am this, and this, like, these good qualities. And he says, I get them from my mother. And then he says, and until a week ago, and then he's like, I'm also this, and this. And he's like, till a week ago, And one of those things is wise beyond my years, brave, like things that are like, oh my God, but you can hear them describing. It's like he's describing his father. And he's like, till a week ago, I had no idea where I got these from. And you can tell he's just like, but now I do. I got them from you. And I was like, oh man, that is a great scene. And we actually had a similar scene with Sydney and her dad right before, after this. And we actually see Geordi admitting to her, like, I was wrong. Like, in my younger years, I would have done this. I would have helped Picard in a heartbeat. But for some weird reason, because I'm thinking about protecting you, I didn't do it. But he's like, I'm proud of you. You're doing the right thing. And now he's joining them as well. And then they turn on Data. And his first thing he says is he looks at Geordi. He's like, Geordi? And then he looks at Picard. He's like, Captain. He's like, we got Data back. However, he does cycle a little bit from Data to B4 to Lore. I might have got the answer wrong. But then back to Data. And they ask him what was stolen. And you think that he's glitching out and he says, Jean-Luc Picard. And is like, no, Jean-Luc Picard's there. But then eventually he has to show them. It's like, no, Jean-Luc Picard was stolen. What Vadic stole, like I said before, we saw Kirk's remains. I mean, I didn't see them, but we know Kirk's remains were there. Picard's remains were there. Remember, he's not in his old body. They stole Jean-Luc Picard's body. So now we know there's something about Picard that's the big problem. Now, something that I think about there is the fact of the disease that Jack has. Maybe it's something that the chainlings can use, since they're now able to replicate inside human organs. Maybe there's something about Jack's disease that they can weaponize. I don't know how they'll do it, but maybe they can. We actually have 2 more scenes though after this, and actually, yeah, 2 more scenes. We see Riker back at Daystrom Station, and he's being hit by the Starfleet officers, thinking that they're going to get information out of him. One of them is shooting the other 2, and it turns out that one that shot them is Vadic. She's now captured Riker. She then goes back to, has Riker on her ship, and he's even saying, like, I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm not going to tell you anything. You think I'd give up my friends for you? And he's like, she's like, not for me. And it shows that Riker, Vadic has stolen Deanna Troi. Kidnapped Deanna Troi. And this is her way of trying to get information out of Riker. And I'm like, the whole band's back together now. We have everyone from TOS is back. Not TOS, Next Generation's back. And I'm like, oh man, this is Star Trek. They are not fucking around. So guys, this was, to me, like I said, a masterpiece episode. 10 out of 10. No notes from me besides Shaw being in the back in his own ready room. Alright guys, but thank you for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I gotta end this video soon because I'm already way over time. But thanks for watching guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.